Secondhand Talent family? It's your boy Steiner here with another Wednesday and another episode, and we're going to jump right into it. We have an incredibly special guest with us today. We have longtime veteran of the Chicago entertainment scene and bouncer extraordinaire, John Armitrano. John, welcome to the show, buddy.
Howdy. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, bud. I'm happy to have you on here, like incredibly so. For the context for our viewers and listeners, I've known John for about 15 years, and when I started doing stand-up comedy, one of the venues that I worked at, did stand-up at, was the Abbey Pub, which is where I met John, my friend Awesome. Shout out Awesome. Um, and they really, had my back when I started my career in comedy, and it really is a pleasure to have you on the show, buddy.
It is all of an experience being on it. Thank you.
I'm glad to hear that. So now we're gonna start with our traditional first question. Now we got to imagine that you don't know me, you never heard of this podcast. It's getting a little more difficult to ask this question, but had you never heard of secondhand talent? The phrase, have you ever heard the phrase secondhand talent? Somebody's like, hey, that's secondhand talent. What does that mean to you?
Uh, I, just that terminology, 100%. It is a talent that is not good. People that are is that like we're like just they're not as good as fans that people do like.
They do
Like
really
if
well.
puddle of mud never got big.
Yeah, gotcha. Mm.
It's like that's a second hand band, right? Like they sound like a bunch
Fair.
of other bands that aren't them, but they put them all together. And because they came out at such and such a time,
Mm.
they got
So
popular.
they got swept up into the ranks
They
because
got lucky, is I think what we in the business call. They
other
got
people call
lucky.
it being in the right place at the right time. We call it just getting lucky. Yeah.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's a more accurate way of putting it,
Yeah, especially in this industry.
especially with that band,
Yeah.
garbage songs.
We're not sponsored by Puddle of Mud, so we don't care what you think.
Yeah, ever.
Yeah.
No, I did work a Hinder show when I worked at the Abbey.
All right.
That was interesting. The frontman at the time uh, was in rehab. So he didn't come into the bar. He just stayed on the bus outside
Oh, until the show like
until the
was ready
show,
to
and then he
start.
like came in from the back door and then went out the back door as soon as it was done. But the rest of it was like Chads, right? So like, there were a bunch of Chads, and the bassist and guitarist, I want to say, were like hanging out and like making out with like cougars and shit, and like being like the super cool guys at the bar. Like, bro, bro, I work at the Abbey all the time, right? At the time,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I so would not think I'm a cool guy if I was doing any of what you're doing.
That's
But,
amazing.
but
And well, you would know because, and we'll get to this right after. Like you've been in the scene for a while. Like you would know.
I would say too long of a period of time.
That's
Yes.
fair. That's fair. I'm sorry, get to continue your thought for really
Oh,
let me cut you off.
what part was I?
I don't remember that.
Oh yeah, Hinder being a bunch of
Right,
fools.
being a
Like,
bunch of Chads. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That's along the short of that story. Is they were a terrible band and terrible people.
You know what?
Yeah, I guess
Again,
we'll full circle it that.
a perfect circle, some would say. Yeah.
Eh,
Puns are what it's all about, Joe. So we're gonna, I guess, begin at the beginning. Like I said in the intro, I've known John for about 15 years. When I started doing stand up, John was there, our buddy Awesome was there, and this was at the Abbey Pub here in Chicago. And I, didn't know anybody really in the scene, didn't really have anybody in my corner, so to speak. And you and Awesome and Jim Bukas, miss you, buddy, were really the first few people that I recall in my career that you know had my back. And this is kind of like a two-parter. I want to hear first, kind of how you got into the scene, and then I want to bring it back to why you had my back.
Uh, Sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, let's start with this. Like, so what was your foray into the live music scene?
I worked at this place called Lasco's. This was my first job in a bar ever. Um, I was working at offices up
Mhm.
until that point. Um, Shirt and tie every day, that type of shit. And I used to go to that. I used to go to Lasco's initially because I was 20 years old and they didn't ID me. But afterward is because like, well, that
Well, then by
like
that point, they know you. You're like,
well,
ah,
right, you know the people that work there, and then like you get laid a few times coming out of the place. Like, hey, it's maybe not too bad of a place to hit up when it's like fucking 3 a.m. My office job started drying up. Like country wise, we were in a recession at the time.
mm. So we're talking like 2007,
Seven,
2000.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
2007 specifically. Yeah, 27. That's when I first became a bouncer. um, First night on the job, uh, as you would imagine, like okay, like it was situated at such a place to where after 2 a.m. every single night, because it was open till 4, uh, you would have like blue collar dickheads coming from this area, and then you would have gangbangers coming from this area, and then like you would have uh white collar dickheads coming in from this area. And it was literally just like too many different types of people in one place, and they're all assholes.
Well, they're also, I mean, just so like for our listeners in not in Chicago, just for context.
Context.
Yeah, there are very few places in Chicago that have 4 a.m. liquor license. It's not,
In comparison,
I mean, compared to the normal 1 a.m., 2 a.m., like
sure,
they're
increasingly harder to get as well.
increasingly harder to find, and there aren't many in a single location. So like there's
Sure.
typically like maybe like one or two 4 a.m. bars in any given neighborhood.
Yeah.
So everybody showing up may not inherently be an asshole, but they are 99% of the time shit faced by the time they get.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
the bar you go to when you're too drunk to go home.
Like, yeah. Like, oh fuck it, I don't want to go home. Let's go here. Like that's that place. You know.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Uh, First night on the job there though. I'm just gonna fast forward till the very end of the night when
We don't need to talk about what led up there.
I I don't even really know what led up to it. Also, like there doesn't need to be much lead in at a bar. Like two dudes who are like, "Brr, brr," and yeah, when they fucking want to fight each other. This is because they're not getting laid, right?
There you go. Yeah, yeah.
And so, like, depending on the person involved, sometimes that'll escalate to firearms. And so, old boy pulls out a gun, comes out in front of the bar, looking for his opponent. Some guy driving the towards the bar on Milwaukee Avenue sees some fucking dipshit wielding a gun, yelling, decides to drive his car into his legs against the car that is parked behind him.
No,
Ooh, man, a lot of blood, a lot of screaming.
a lot fewer legs than when the night started.
Holy fucking shit, yeah, yeah, a lot less. Like he, as you would imagine, did not regain his legs.
Yeah, yeah, he left him between those two bumpers, bro. Like you fucking,
First night on the job, as
I can't. I mean, like,
I've
could you imagine, like, just if you're an accountant, you show up to the office one day and like the first thing that happens is fucking somebody takes like a computer and just bashes someone's head in with it, and you're just like, this is a normal work environment. Like,
what
so
you know what? Without really like delving in too much into it, it did occur to me at times because like I said, like most of my 20s, I worked in offices, right? And it's like shirt and tie every day, like fucking barbs and bodies, talking
mm,
about everybody squawking, right? And like, but you still have to be nice.
you have to be genteel,
The people
as
on the
Zappa would put
phone
it,
might be
strictly genteel.
motherfucking you up and down, but you have to be nice. Which there was only so much of that I
I
could do.
love you.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
great, dude.
right, yeah.
Your mind, you're doing trying to do
That's like
Jedi mind tricks to break their neck.
snapping
Yeah,
their
yeah, yeah,
necks.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely that. They're such nice people.
Oh, the best.
Wow. Uh, so I ended up not working in offices mostly because of the recession I mentioned earlier. And then that went into like a 15-year spiral of working in bars, most of which have been bars slash music venues.
Right.
Like that's not necessarily something I went after. It just kind of happened. Uh,
Okay. Interesting.
yeah, no, I honestly never really even thought of that until I said that just now. Like I didn't look for music venues to work in because I was a musician and I was like, oh, this music fucking sucks. And then like, you have to listen to it all
Sure.
night
Yeah.
long.
You're, if,
At this stage in the game, I'm so fucking desensitized to all of it though. Like I don't care. Like I
yeah.
can I am so used to hearing music I don't like. You know what I mean? So like when it's to that, I like just pretend it's not there and then just talk
Yeah.
to whoever I'm there with.
Yeah. 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 Focus on. Yeah. Yeah.
But once I get drunk and I hear a song I do like, it's like and then you start singing the lyrics and fucking dancing, and
Mhm.
that could actually lead to better times too.
Yeah. 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 I mean, and depending on the night, better tips. I mean,
Yeah, we can call it that.
yeah,
Yeah,
tips. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll call it tips.
Just the tip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
call it tips.
So that is news to me. That and you had mentioned that it was kind of news to you as you said it, but like because I remember meeting you and my first thought was like, oh, this guy has been a bouncer for fucking ever. Like, because that's the vibe that you gave off at the time. Like it seemed like once you got to the Abbey,
That was my second bar gig. uh, in between then, I was an apprentice to be a tattoo artist, and
it's also something I didn't know.
people that I've tattooed. I just wasn't very good at it, and I honestly did not feel a passion for it.
Mm,
Like, especially the shit people want to get put on them
mm.
is say really?
Like you want to tattoo what you want to draw.
Oh,
Like you want to tattoo what you,
I mean, like, I feel like I'm just more artistic, and like I thought that might be a good outlet for it, and it wasn't. Um, partially, well, like I was starting to say, like people, like okay, I was just an apprentice, right? And like this dude went into one of the actual artists that charge real money to do this shit.
mm,
Uh, his whole diatribe was, I wanted to say overstand. I don't understand, bro.
mm.
I
I know all too well what you're,
overstand.
yeah.
Like, you really think that's clever, right? Like, people that you've told in your day to day life are like, oh yeah, yeah, bro, like, that's the one to go with. Like, are you kidding me? That is it's not the dumbest. It's not the dumbest, but it's
It's
pretty
a
fucking
contender.
stupid,
It's
bro.
a
Like,
contender. It's up
I
there.
overstand. You want this tattooed on your arm that you
Overstand.
overstand. Like, oh,
I understand that. Also, like as an artist, I referenced the Robin Williams joke earlier, but in a performance, I only want to do my own material. I don't want to, I want to be able to express creatively how I feel. And if I'm not, getting that satisfaction in what I'm doing, I need to find another outlet for that artistic expression.
so like bands do covers of songs from other bands. I don't think it necessarily works like that for comedians.
No, there, no.
Like, there's no possible way that there's a comparison between the two, like in that regard. No,
Well, yes and no. I
I
mean,
mean you could tell another comedian's joke, but
there's
unless you're
that,
like
yeah,
and the mannerisms of
but
what you
that's
tell, like
not right. So, but
that's
here's the
make you a
thing.
psychopath.
Here's
No,
the thing is you can't drop that into your own set. However, I would be remiss to say that my very first experience performing in front of a crowd, telling jokes. I learned and memorized a full Mitch Hedberg show
He was
and would
pretty great.
perform that in his, like, I would wear the long coat, just be like, I prefer waffles over pancakes because waffles, little squares, and they tell the syrup, hey, stay right here. You fill up, move on to the next square. Oh no, butter, move around. Like I loved, and my friends loved the impression, and they thought it was great. But after doing that 2 or 3 times, I was like,
Great search party at 3.
yeah, yeah. Uh, point being though, like I still like, I was like, I enjoy making people laugh, but how do I do it on my own terms? And what I started to do was slip my own joke into those pre-established sets, and I would swap out some of Mitch's jokes with some of my jokes. And ultimately, it got to a point where I had a solid 5 minutes that I knew I could do of my own material. And the moment I had that, I stopped doing the imitations, the impressions. But
I would liken that to side of things like doing karaoke until you're not a shit singer and then like starting to front bands. Like
yeah, yeah, I would say so. I mean, every impressionist, for example, starts somewhere, and you're not going to hit the nail on the head the first time. And, with comedy, getting people to laugh is a struggle enough, whether it's your material or someone else's. Um,
I feel like that has a lot to do with the person that's telling the jokes though.
yes.
Like I was like I don't go out much these days, right? But I was like recently at Liars Club,
Okay. Sure.
my favorite in Chicago,
Shout out Liars Club.
Liars Club.
Yeah.
But they had a amateur comedy night, and me and my buddies had no idea that that was what we were walking into. We just thought, hey, it's going to be like Monday or whatever
Yeah.
fuck
Yeah.
it was, and like, yeah, it should be kind of dead, but like at least it should be a good time. And
Right.
it's like
Right.
nobody we know is there, but there's like 15, 20 people. And, I know the bartender who is sometimes a door guy and like Scott Stiglitz, like, hey Stiggy, what the fuck is going on? Is this right? And he's like,
What is happening?
uh,
Yeah.
because like fucking excuse fucking stand-up comedians, especially the ones that aren't named yet, like or aren't good at what they do, like they feel the need to tell you that they're a stand-up comedian, and then they
Interesting.
and then they go into part of their set as though it's a conversation. It's like, look, you fucking cocksucker. Like, I've been in bands before and never had like I walked up to the door guy or whatever place I was playing, like with my guitarist. They're like, "Hey, we're playing tonight," and then start singing him a fucking song. Like nobody does this. You don't need to either.
Bringing it back to your experience as a bouncer. That's one thing that I always thought you were especially good at doing was being able to be one-on-one with people in a moment, and not, you know, I mean, certainly there are
Thank you.
times, yeah, of course. I mean, well, certainly there were times when there's a line around the block, it's a big act, you gotta, you're working, you're hustling, but like outside of, excuse me, outside of somebody else like being a complete, dick or like abusive towards someone else, let's say, I can't recall a time that you were really rude to anyone. Like, I mean, you short, like move along, I have to get stuff done, absolutely. But
You have like
I,
150 people you're trying to get.
of course, you're trying to work, work hard and fast. But there's definitely, in the way that there's different comedians, there's certainly a tier of bouncers that don't give a fuck about anybody and are just there to do their job, and they're just like,
Do their job, pick up chicks, hopefully beat people up, right? Like that's like the credo for dudes who are bad at my job.
Mm.
Because
Yeah. Okay.
like there
Okay.
is a vast difference between being good and being bad at any job. This one is definitely one of those things, though. Most people associate being bouncer or bar security, right? That's what it's actually called. Bouncer is like the fucking like fun tough guy term from
Sure.
Britain or whatever, which is accurate. You do have to bounce people sometimes, in which case it can be fun. Usually because they're fucking jerk offs and had it coming, and it's like you have finally given me a reason to hit you. Thank you so much. Like after a full night of fucking dealing with somebody, like sometimes that is what the doctor ordered.
Yeah.
That being said, there are an incredible amount of dudes who do this job that are fucking dolts. Like they are literally the some of the dumbest people you will ever speak to. Have virtually no personality. Has wanting to hurt people and fuck chicks. Like it's all fucking like caveman shit.
Basically, the people who were getting those tattoos that you didn't want to,
Yeah,
you didn't
right.
want to
Yeah,
draw,
yeah. A
right?
bunch of overstand
Yeah.
motherfuckers. Yeah,
And Chads.
yeah. Guys, tribal shit. Right? Yeah, let's get some tribal tattoos of tribes I've never been a part of.
Yeah, that I can't. Yeah,
I
that
don't
I
know what
know
these things
nothing
mean.
about.
Yeah, I don't know what
That's
these mean.
the dumbest shit.
But I'm gonna get about. Yeah, it's gonna look real cool. Whatever. So like past that, um, or not past that. That's exactly what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Those fucking chads, man. Like there are absolutely um dudes who do their jobs poorly, and like they think that they're working at like a college bar or some shit like that.
Mm,
You know what I mean?
hmm.
And like transfer it over to the rest of the real world, which doesn't.
Operate by the same crazy logic. Yeah.
Right. Which case, like I said, there are a bunch of people who do that. However, there are people like me that actually do take the job seriously. Like, you can't take yourself too seriously because then you're still a fucking Chad. You know what I mean? Like, that's literally with anything. You really can't, like, it helps if
You
you don't,
can't
like,
take, I mean, as a comedian, you certainly can't take yourself too serious. So that's how you crash and burn real quick.
well, I mean, like, as a comedian, it would almost be silly to do so.
Sacrilegious, I believe is the term. What is it?
Counterproductive, I guess, would also be.
Counterintuitive. There are so many words with
But there
silly.
are those people, like, they immediately shoot themselves in the foot before they make it to any type of echelon because they don't have the right head for the game.
Right. It's are you, what attitude are you going into this with? What value are you adding at the bar? And I would argue, and you know, compared to those people that you described, you, I believe, added a lot of value to that beat pub. I
Thank you.
mean, like,
Seriously, thank you. I have heard similar from a bunch of the places I worked at from a bunch of people. And like, look, man, I don't think of any of it as such, especially live action, like when it's happening.
mm, mhm.
Uh, People like getting fucked up, right? I like getting fucked up. It's like it. This world sucks. It helps getting through it. You know what I mean? Like having a few beers and smoking some weed, whatever. Maybe hitting the slopes. Who gives a shit if that's what helps you survive this fucking mangle of a world that we're in? So be it. Uh, People are gonna have off days, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And people's off days sometimes spiral, right? But like for the most part, especially like working security in a bar environment, you can't take a lot of it personally because it's not directed as you as to you as a person. They don't know you, right?
Hmm.
Like they don't know you at all. Like you just met this fucking douchebag,
Right.
and he's clearly had too many vodka sodas with the twisted line. Thanks, right? He's had a few too many of those, and or like Miller Lights or something, like 'cause the fucking North Park.
Jack and Cobra.
Yeah, yeah, Captain Cover.
Cat-
Yeah, you have Captain, bro. Uh, uh, But those fucks, uh,
Yeah, familiar.
they're not even upset with me as a person. They never know me. Like they just met
Right.
me. You know
Right.
what I mean?
They're just fucked up.
They're intimidated by the fact that I have a shaved head and like facial hair. And like obviously, like I'm wearing a long sleeve T-shirt today, but I have tattoos, as you might imagine.
Yeah.
Um, they look at me and they're like, "Oh," and like you're working in security, and they're like, "Oh, well, that's guy gotta like test my metal against." Like, I am here to do a job. This is like going into the office.
Yes.
This is exactly like going into the office for me. You're human. I don't even look up what show we're having. Like when I before I got still I could still do the shit. I didn't look up who the show is going to be because it doesn't matter. I don't give a fuck what is going on. When I walk in, let me know what's happening so I know what to look for
You're there
and
to do a job.
what to let go. Because like, bro, like if you're working a hardcore show, right? Like these fucking people will just like literally throw themselves into each other and like will bowl to the floor and then like fucking get up hugging each other. Joey, that was fucking awesome. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like to me, that like
It's
I
different
don't
from the fish
consider
crap.
that enjoying a show. Like I like to enjoy the show instead of worrying about like some fucking dipshit plowing into me the whole time. Like, it doesn't strike me as fun. That being said, to each their own. By
Mm.
all means, if that's a good time for you, fucking do it. I do not care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, do
Yeah.
it. So you have more allowances for a show like that.
Sure.
Whereas, like, if it's what's the new term? Meme bands, right? Uh,
What does that mean?
oh yeah. Cool. I'm glad you asked.
I don't think I've ever heard that expression before.
So these are bands that are basically birthed from like YouTube channels that are like people who make songs. Hold on, wait. Make songs.
Yeah.
I want there to be a definite quote around
Yeah, we'll
songs.
pop up quotes on the screen. Yeah.
Songs, right? That are mostly internet bullshit. They're bullshit songs. They're bullshit songs. But fucking little kids and like early teens, like
So,
who have no idea like what music, whether it's good or bad, really is yet.
so is this like today's version of like SoundCloud rappers? It's that kind of
Oh
like,
yeah,
okay, okay,
yeah.
all right.
But worse, but worse. Like the SoundCloud rappers, at least like no, never mind. Like those are garbage too. Like I can't think of it. Entertainment qualities.
You know,
Sometimes you don't think of it until you think of
but that was the point that I was getting to, roundabout to what you had said prior to that. Um,
it.
is that when you're in the moment, it's sometimes a lot of times it's one of those things that either it won't occur to you in the moment to do anything about it because you may not feel safe, you might not feel, protected,
I mean, also sometimes in the moment you don't realize that that's really happening.
or that it's or how wrong it is. I
Sure.
mean, I could, you could like, I, we can be put into people's minds like this is what everybody does to make it to this point, to get a record deal, to do this, to do that. I went to a metal concert and like the guy started singing and he was like, and we're going to the band. We're going on. I was like, holy shit, he just went from 0 to 100,000 like real fucking quick. And then like that the only way he sang for the rest of the show was like he had a fucking gargoyle stuck in his throat. Yeah.
Which is cool if it sounds cool, but if you're not very good and you're doing it the whole night, um, yikes. That's like a real bad time.
Yeah, that
It's a
is a
real bad time.
significant lack of self-awareness.
I feel like it's partially the band members' faults for letting that continue and then book shows and be like, "Yeah, bro, you're a front man. Like you do a great job." Like, no, you didn't do a great job.
Yeah,
You did a fucking terrible job.
that's like, I mean,
Nobody understands your lyrics anyway, so that portion of things doesn't really matter.
A,
Which for me as a lyricist is a little bit like it hurts a little to say it. It's like do you have a command of the English language supposedly? Because like you're from here, born and raised, and all that. Uh, how don't you know better words and like how to string them along together better and like call yourself a lyricist? It's like it is
I
mind boggling.
I think that simple lyrics have their place, but
High school.
no, but like within a body of work that contains quality lyricism, to
I,
have a couple of songs with simpler lyrics, I think is all right. But like
I mean,
simple can be meaningful as well.
sure, sure.
I don't know if that's a hot take or not, that simple can be meaningful.
It can be.
Yeah, I don't think it's a hot
You're
take.
not
I feel like
wrong.
that's
You're
accurate.
not
Yeah.
wrong. It can be meaningful, but uh having the lyrics where Metallica in a song, probably not something I'd have done if my band was named Metallica. I mean, like, I get that with
Or
like,
any other name.
oh, sure.
I
I
would
mean,
just put that out there.
like KMFDM does it, KMFDM doing it again. Like, it's not the same thing.
The only other instance that I can think of like that is, hi, my name is, yeah, but that's like
I feel
a
like
different realm.
I feel like rappers mention themselves in their own songs. They're mentioned in other songs. Like they have their fucking like not only their
Right? It's
stage
part of their personality, like it to
sure,
put themselves in their lyrics.
so like Eminem, right? Like Eminem is his stage name. His real name is
Mm,
Marshall
Marshall Mathers,
Mathers,
yep.
but he's also Slim Shady. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like
Hmm.
uh Everlast was Whitey Ford.
Yep. Hmm.
Snoop Eastwood. You know what I mean? Like they all have their other self-imposed nicknames. Is it valid that those are their nicknames if they're the ones calling themselves that? Is it? Is it valid? Or is it just something that we accept because we like the song and like, oh hey, there's that guy.
I think that that's a great question. Personally, I feel like that's something that comes with time, and I think it takes ultimately the body of work to reflect upon to determine, whether or not, in the moment, I agree it could seem like just completely out of place or way too much. But I think, when we look at an artist like Eminem, for example, since that's, to continue on that,
Sure.
um, at the time he was doing it, right? I feel like it was, and I may be wrong here on my Eminem facts, but I feel like it was a development of a persona that would fit in. And,
The Slim Shady part.
his first, before Slim Shady was the Marshall Mathers LP. And, or there was the Slim Shady, the Marshall Mathers, and then Eminem show. So
Well,
really,
Marshall Mathers technically his real name. Huh?
well, it is, but it was the Marshall Mathers EP, Slim Shady EP, and then some Diddy
I don't
LP, and then
Eminem show.
Eminem show. And so like he kind of sequentially went through all of those and continued to reference the previous name in his later works, but then after that it was done. After 2001, 2002, like there have been no additional,
I
it's
mean,
not like he kept
also,
on adding a name every album or
oh
something
yeah,
like
fair
that. You
enough.
know what I mean? Like,
However, to coincide with what you're saying slightly, how many of the albums that he put out after that time period were actually good? Because I can't think of any.
the
Like,
last I
because like
mean,
I remember listening to albums that he put out after those,
yeah, yep.
and then being like, wait, I mean, that was definitely Eminem.
I mean, if
You know what I mean? Like, it was definitely him. It's not
that,
anything I would listen to.
yeah, I mean, no shade, or I guess we would say no shady, but like it's puns. So I would say that, yeah, the last Eminem album I think that I really listened to a lot was probably Encore. Um, the one that came right after Eminem show with the blue cover, like I think maybe 2004, I want to say. But like even that album, I felt like it was almost trying to recapture what Eminem show was and try to provide like an other side of the coin to that instead of regressing on to a new album because in his first three records, there is a very clear, evolution in his craft. I would say that from album to album, you can really hear the difference, not just in the production, but also in his level of lyricism. And
I'm just going to interrupt you real
please
quick.
interrupt
That
me.
that was very Patrick Bateman of you. That whole explanation that you just said. Have you ever seen American Psycho?
As an American Psycho, I could say I identify with that.
Yeah, no, like it was very much him describing Huey Lewis and the News or Whitney Houston. Continue, please.
And I feel like, had he continued to build out the different names and different personas, I would have a much different view of him. But even though, besides for, I think it's called Relapse, I can't even think of a name of any of his albums that have come out since 2004. And, you know, I still listen to Eminem all the time and I hold him in very high esteem. And I think he is one of the great rappers of our generation. But I also feel that, and I don't want to say his career was stunted, but like, I can't imagine going to see, and to be fair, I have always wanted to see an Eminem show. I've always wanted to see Eminem live just for the sake of, when I was in grade school, when I was in junior high, high school, like Dr. Dre, Eminem, Tribe Called Quest, that was
Sure.
everything. Five Dog, Q-Tip, that was everything for me.
Oh,
And
Tupac was too good.
absolutely, and Biggie, and I couldn't imagine going to see Eminem today and wanting to hear any tracks after 2001. That's the difference because like there's other artists in hip hop that like MF Doom put out, every one of his albums like had brought a unique flavor to his repertoire. And with Eminem, like as great as he is and in such high esteem that I hold him, I feel like there was that bit of stagnation in the sense that, he didn't necessarily ride that wave of momentum in that direction by continuing as the Eminem show. And he kind of feigned it with Encore. But what I respect about it, real quick, what I respect about it, despite whether or not I like the music, what I respect about it is that he is making that music for himself and he is publishing the music that he wants to publish. And I recall reading an interview about Relapse where I believe he said, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he said like that album of all of my albums felt the most forced. It felt the most like people were clamoring for something new, and I felt obligated to put out an album. But like that's not me. That's not what I wanted to do. And that's why I continued to make albums is because I wanted to put out what I felt truly reflected my artistic, my artistic direction for myself and not necessarily to please other people. And that is something that I greatly respect.
Yeah, I feel like with what you just said though, there is another aspect of things. Um, by the time, again, let's just stick on Eminem, right?
Sure, yeah.
By the time he got to that level, the fan
Which
like
level are we talking about? Which just real
oh yeah,
quick.
I'm sorry. Like let's say by the Eminem show, right?
Okay. All
After
right.
that one's
Very
already been
early
released.
2000s. Yeah,
After that one's already been released.
sure.
Uh, you're going further into your career, but at that stage in the game, the kids that listen to you in high school are now out of high school.
Mm,
You know what I mean?
mm,
And like kids that are entering high school that would glom onto that type of thing because it's on the same radio station that they listen to or fucking whatever. You know what I mean?
mm.
Uh, you would. Sorry, I totally lost where who's going right
Well,
there.
you were saying on the same vein of, producing that material that, that was, kind of what he wanted to put out.
Oh, I'm okay. So like you have a different group of people coming in
Mm.
that are listening to your now new stuff and taking that as what you sound like.
Yes. Okay. All right. I see. Yep.
And I feel like that those people probably weren't so keen into it
Mm.
because he was at a progressive stage in his career,
Yes,
right?
I 100% agree. Even, and I would argue
But his
even,
new fans would not necessarily be
mm,
like you have the
I
people
see
that
what
like
you're saying.
listen to music because it's
Yes.
popular now. I gotta get a
Yes.
job. Like I don't give a fuck about musicians and music and blah blah blah. I just like to listen to whatever's like loud at the bar or club I go to on fucking Fridays and Saturdays.
Mm,
You know, and like so you have somebody who's trying to do something new from what they've done, and by that time they're almost a legend in the eyes of the kid that are coming up.
mm. I see what you're saying. So if I'm hearing you correctly, and I just want to make sure that I'm getting
Sure,
this right, is that it's a generational thing in two aspects.
sure.
One is that when I was in junior high and the Eminem show came out in sixth when I was in sixth grade, I like for me, when I was listening to the Chronic 2001 Eminem show, Check the Rhyme, for me, I was that made me want to listen to Marshall Mathers LP, and that made me want to listen to the Slim Shady LP. I was able to catch that progression
Sure.
in a way that I fully agree with you. A lot of people who came up with, when Relapse was released, for example, in 2000, I believe 2008, anybody coming into it at that stage probably doesn't know what the Eminem show is.
Yeah, correct.
And I actually see it quite a bit. I've mentioned to you before that, I like doing reaction videos. Um, and one of the things that really inspired me to do that actually is based around Eminem. One of the things that I absolutely love watching content of, uh, besides for everything here on Secondhand Talent, is reaction videos of some of the older heads in the hip hop game revisiting earlier Eminem tracks and really getting, you know, like realizing all these years later, wait a minute, like we didn't take him seriously in the culture at the time and thought he was just overcompensating with all these crazy lyrics and
Oh
fast-paced
yeah,
shit.
talking shit about people.
But as I sit here, as the reactioner sits there and listens to that track again and is trying to break it down and absorb it, a lot of the reactions that I've seen have been like, wait a minute, like this is sharp. Like this is I remember there's one bar of his where he goes, Vin, like villainous vein Vicodin, vin, vin, vin. And the guy paused it and was like, did he just use six words that start with a V? And like it what?
Yeah.
And like and again, another thing I love about Eminem is that he was a master of onomatopoeia. He could throw in sounds, make words
Oh
rhyme.
yeah.
I saw an interview of his one time where he's like, they say you can't rhyme orange. It's dumb. Just depends how you say it. Going orange, gonna chop on the range. Like
Yeah.
going orange, I'm gonna see how they're doing on the barge. You know what I mean? Like, that's a terrible line. But like
He
again,
ran with syringe too, no?
yeah, you could try this syringe, but I got punched with this syringe. Like, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Like, there's so many different way, and I loved hearing him talk about this, about how I hate when people tell me that I can't write something or I can't produce something in my art. That I don't like when people tell me you can't rhyme this. You can't like that makes me want to do it even more.
I completely understand that feeling.
And bringing it back to,
Completely get it.
bringing it back to you a little bit. And first of all, I gotta say, secondhand talent family, real quick. I know that this hasn't really been the typical secondhand talent episode. We've gone off on a lot of tangents and I really would love our listeners and viewers to just I want to give them a little window into when I first met you.
Yeah, sure.
And I just, uh I have been, I feel singularly blessed in this project, Secondhand Talent, to had the opportunity to bring on and platform so many friends, so many different facets of the entertainment industry, and so many um so many aspects of it that just really the public are unaware of. And the reason this is a little different is because one, I mean, I don't believe we've had about like a former bouncer on the show before, I want to say. And I definitely believe, we're gonna do a part two. We're gonna do just the stories part two. Like it's gonna happen.
Yeah,
We might
whatever.
even do a mini series, John Stories. Story time with Uncle John's band. Like it might happen, folks. We don't know, but for context, maybe we talked about bouncing a little bit. Maybe we went on some tangents,
Yeah, I
but
feel like we mostly just bullshitted and there happened to be a camera and microphone.
yeah, but that's what we're all about. And for me in particular, this is a special kind of bullshitting because
All for it.
yeah, because when I started, I was too young. I was a kid. I was a kid. And I don't know if everybody's heard the story yet, but very briefly, when I used to go to the Abbey pub where John worked, he never let me in. And well, for good reason,
I mean, we have rules.
for good reason, no, for good reason. But our Wednesday nights, they had a side called the Green Room, which was where all the stand-up comedy, open mic stuff, all that was, food.
Sure,
And
yeah.
then on the other side was the venue. And every Wednesday there was an open mic in the green room that I was always trying to attend. And in the stage it was Paradise Waits.
Oh yeah.
Jim, the reason I the reason it's you and Jim and Austin is because it all happened the same. And I had tried once again to get into the Abbey pub. Was told no for very good reason. And my and this wasn't, I just so you know, because I don't know if you know about this. This was not the exception. This was the rule. I showed up everywhere. I went to Kinetic, I went to Double Door, I went everywhere I possibly could and tried to get into these places. And I was sitting outside every week. And I was sitting outside, smoking a cigarette, and Jim comes out. And what the fuck are you doing here? I was like, man, I just want to tell some jokes and listen to some Grateful Dead tunes. And he was like, you're my new roadie. And he kind of brought me in, and that I guess you saw me, like you saw him bring me in. And then I was hanging around, and then Awesome saw me and there was like, oh, hey, what's, because he had no idea. Like, because he's never by the door, right? So,
Oh yeah.
so he doesn't see the view. So he just thought I was coming for the job.
Yeah.
And I went right up to him and I said, hey, how's it going? My name's Steiner. I do stand-up comedy. I'm here to tell some jokes and I'm going to come back. Really looking forward to hearing how you do sound. And he was just like, I don't think anybody's like come in and said that to me like before. I was like, man, I'm really trying to get in like to the music world and I'm really trying to learn a lot about it. And I've been trying to come in this venue forever. I love Paradise Waits. And from that day forward, it felt like the barriers were broken. And
It helps to have an in,
well, it helps to have an in, but it was
especially with
even,
the very,
but
you
it
know.
helps even more knowing that when I came back the next Wednesday, y'all were like, "Welcome back."
I mean,
And to me, like at the time, as like a 17-year-old, really just again, not on the bar side, just in the green room. Like, and I had a stamper, really, you
oh
would just
yeah,
make sure that I was like double X's on
access.
both hands. Yep,
Yeah,
yep, yep.
yeah,
And
way
but
too
like
big.
all of a sudden, I finally had this space to express myself in the way that I had really wanted. I had tried songwriting and I tried playing instruments, and I really felt that stand up and improv was where I needed to be. And you and Jim and Awesome opened that first door for me to walk through. And when I said earlier in the interview that I really can't recall many bouncers like you, is that you genuinely cared about me.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And
I mean, like, look, man, you do this shit long enough, and like that was my second bar gig,
yeah,
but I grew up around hippies. Like half my friends growing up in like high school and just after high school, like they're a bunch of fucking hippies. So I knew what to look out for, uh, as far as some things were concerned, and like
sure.
job. Um, but I'll tell you what, man, like there were a lot of shitheads in that group, like people who were bad or popular or whatever. Amongst those people,
Yeah,
uh,
absolutely.
that were total scumbags. And like I would rather piss on you, give you a glass of water, that type of thing. Uh, and you could kind of tell who wasn't. And like you were one of the very few people in that wave, like entire sea of fucking like zombies, like that wasn't a shithead. And like that's memorable. Like, look, man, especially like the further you get on in this world, you're gonna run into people that you thought were great people,
Mm,
and then turn out
speak
to,
on it.
and then turn out to not be. You know what I mean? Like, uh, whether you built it up in your head or they just presented themselves in a different way than what they actually are like, that's kind of that becomes more prevalent.
It comes out a lot more as
But
time.
you also know kind of like what to look for, like the warning signs and shit like that.
Sure.
Uh, but you also tend to realize which ones are the actual genuine people. Like you're one of those, and that does matter.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, you're welcome.
And I really appreciate hearing that, man.
No, that's for sure the devil's honest truth. uh, for certain though. You know what I mean? Like too many people are garbage. Like too many people are petty for things that they shouldn't be petty about, especially when they've done those things or in fact done worse than those things. And like they look down upon other people because
And they
you
think
found
people
it.
don't know about it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like maybe calm the fuck down a bit,
Mm-hmm.
Get your head out of your ass,
Mm-hmm.
Like so be it. But having those people around is useful. It lets you know who the good ones are. You can't tell who's good when you don't have bad.
That actually reminds me. So we're both big comic book fans. And we were just talking actually before the interview about Sandman. And uh one of the that actually brings out a really magnificent point. It's in the first book when Dream goes to retrieve his helm from hell,
Yeah.
and Lucifer's about to stop him at the end. And his answer, right, is hope, right? The hope was the one that beat Karanazan. And the question was, what stands a hope in hell? And Dream says, look at all these demons and people who are being punished around you, right? What meaning would hell have if there wasn't a hope for heaven?
Oh, I mean,
Like hope defines despair.
oh yeah.
And it like they're,
Well, I
they're
mean, like sticking on exactly with what you just said. You have a bunch of demons that are in hell. What hope do they have to get the fuck out? Right? Like that would be the hope for those people, to get the fuck out of there so they could do something else,
well, yeah.
be something else.
Another great, point of it was that, that another uh, quote from Lucifer in that series was like, people in hell like aren't here to be tortured by demons. They're torturing themselves.
Yeah. The
They're
demons
here.
just take a
The
body off
demons
her.
are just like, all right, like you want to get stabbed and shit over and over again, we can accommodate.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
This Airbnb, you get your skin flayed on Tuesdays. Like, I mean,
I mean, what else do they got going
but
on?
it's seriously, right? So skin flay Tuesdays are a big deal.
Well, they should.
But seriously, it's like, it's this sense of like, I fucked up, now I need to repent. It's like, or you could just be a good person
Sure.
and like not
Not do those
not
things
do those
anymore. Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Yeah.
Admit that you fucked up, apologize, move on. That is really a foreign concept for a lot of people.
I was gonna say like that you might need to translate what that for our audience uh who might not know what that
It's
means.
okay to admit you're wrong.
And it's and not only is it okay, I think it makes you
It's smiled upon.
a better person, not
Sure.
just in the eyes of others, but for your own character. To
Also
be
in the eyes of Jesus.
my my
What?
my my cousin-in-law in Christ. But yeah, no, like it's very much eye of the beholder type situation. Um,
Okay. That could be said for virtually anything.
yeah, that was generic as fuck. But you
Yeah.
know what? I have no apologies. That's
It totally fit regardless. Like I wasn't really trying to say you were generic. I was saying, oh yeah, that encompasses a lot.
oh no, I said I was generic.
No, yeah,
I
yeah,
fully
yeah.
yeah, that was me.
Absolutely, yeah.
That was me.
Just making sure we're clear.
Yes, no, very clear. But yeah, again, getting back to it, uh the other part about it, I mean, forget about like and again, it at the time did and still does mean the world that y'all had my back. And I think the proof in the pudding, so to speak, that they talk about is here we are 15 years later.
Yeah, right.
And like that's really special. Yeah.
I mean, like, A, that B, the fact that you're interviewing me. like for me, that's like, yeah, I'm all cool with doing it, but like I would never in a million years figured that I would be being interviewed for working. You know what I mean? Like I do stuff that I plan on eventually being interviewed for,
Right.
like the fucking writing comics or
Yeah,
like
yeah,
writing
yeah.
screenplays and shit like that. But uh to know that I'm like, I don't know, like revered in a sense is nice. Like
You're
I was always just being me, you know what I mean? And like
exactly.
I've come to hear that my being myself to other people has given them hope in some way or another, which I think is great. I never thought it, but the fact that other people do is pretty great.
You know, it was I would say not just, I would say it was impactful in ways that impactful is the word I would use, impactful in ways that I can't even express. Because at the time, my thought process was somebody is doing something nice for me. Only, 10, 15 years down the line did I realize, holy shit, without that experience, who knows?
Yeah,
And that's
yeah, yeah.
really what and you mentioned, not being surprised, for being interviewed for work. I mean, the whole purpose of this show is to help people understand that when you go to a show, like the people at there are working. They're not there to watch the concert.
Yeah,
They're
right.
not there to see the show.
In
And
fact, most of the time we cannot stand what's playing.
and how long does it go if you're dealing with people in line and one person gives you a smile and says thank you very much?
Oh, dude, uh, you remember the nice ones more than anything. Like jerk offs at shows are a dime a dozen,
Mm,
or bars.
mm,
Like you expect it, right?
mhm.
It's when people go out of their way to be nice to you, that's really what sticks with you. That's what resonates the most. And it's not only because it's so infrequent. I would say it's more so because that's kind of like the shit that really matters. Like
Yes.
you could
Yes.
really drag that to other aspects of life.
100%.
Uh, don't let the shitheads get you down. Like that's easier said than done. I mean, like we all have our fucking days, you know. But uh focus on the ones that build you, not the ones that tear you down.
Absolutely. And just, something that we've talked about a lot on the show is that, that little smile, that thank you, and not just in the music scene, but like you said, across all industries, like service workers, bartenders,
Sure.
but when you go to a show, when you go to a restaurant, when you go out to a bar, I mean, say just give a smile, say thank you for the people that are helping you have a safe, good time. You don't know what kind of day someone's having. You don't know how much it's free and it's easy, and you just don't know how important it could be in that other person's life.
Oh yeah, for
And,
sure.
the again, like, the kind of the point of this show is to raise the profile of not just the individuals who are guests on the show, but also of those professions because th- there's a lot of bouncers, there's a lot of stage managers, there's a lot of front of house guys, and it's not just about the guests on the show, it's about raising awareness for the level of dedication and work that goes into these professions as well.
I mean, it's valid. It's a valid thing. Like, thank you for appreciating that. I feel like probably nobody says that exactly to you, but like these are definitely important cogs in the machine, right? And
And
that's all it is. It's all one big machine that whatever machine you choose to jump into, you are just a piece of it.
I
You know
mean,
what I mean?
one way we like to put it is that, the common phrase is that it takes a village to put on a show.
Yeah, right.
So
That's accurate.
the band is just a few villagers. We're interviewing the rest of the village.
Yeah, right. I mean, like the band is granted what brings the crowd to the place,
Sure.
but in order to get that crowd to come inside and pay for coming in to see you and then like not throwing shit at the stage.
Getting the show booked. I
Any
mean, like
other
it just
any
always
part of it. Yeah. Literally any other part of it the band does not do. Typically. I mean, like,
typically,
sure,
yeah.
sure, there are bands that do handle that, like before they get managers or shit like that. But I mean, like, they're by no means the end all be all of what's happening. Like,
Absolutely.
anybody could be replaced, including the band. Somebody else will come in their place. You know what I mean? Like, there is always somebody else.
100%. And, you know, I I think a good I like to leave off with this message is just be kind.
Sure,
Like
that is that's a good one.
I mean, I
And like I really mean that. Like I hope that didn't come off as
no,
maybe
not
like
at
a
all, not at
sarcastic
all.
riff. Like be kind. Like it does not hurt to be nice. I myself am a little bit reactionary at times, we'll say. Like if I'm coming off nice to you and you were just a dickhead immediately, I'll give you one more chance past that.
Mm,
And then if you're still a dick, it's like, okay, now I am a dick back to you.
mm, mhm.
But we don't have to get there. And in fact, I would prefer to not get there.
Right.
Like just be fucking
Absolutely.
nice. Like
Absolutely.
pretend like I don't know what the fuck is going on with your day or care why you're upset. Like to be ambivalent on it. You know, like it is not my business.
And also
Get your shit together before you fucking talk to
and
people. Stop
also
being
like
be nice.
and like I don't know you from Adam. Like we've never met.
Yeah, right.
Like
Who the
what
fuck are you? Who I owe you?
who the fuck are you? No, like yeah, my terrible De Niro fucking but we do it in Pacino. Who the fuck are you? What are you doing? Whoa, ha, whoa, ha. But yeah, like, that sense of like social credit entitlement of like because you do what you do and you think you are who you are, that you are above someone or
Yeah, keep your ego in check.
keep your ego in check and remember that, as things may be going great for you right now, but somebody else might be having hard times. And just because things are going great for you right now,
Doesn't mean they'll always go right for you. Remember
but
that, like,
remember what you that when you're not in that place, you're gonna want that kindness shown to you.
you're either going up or coming down.
And like Alan Toussaint says, and the people that you meet on the way up, you'll see again on the way down.
Yep, absolutely,
Like,
so fucking absolutely. I mean, like, I always felt like it was kind of like one of those things that like goes without saying. Like,
mm,
don't be so big of
no
a piece of
hyena.
shit. Don't be so big of a piece of shit that like you don't become somebody that you would never talk to. But
Yes.
but people do it all the time. Like it's tricky. It's slippery slope, man. Like, there's no we get no
There's
instructions.
no
No,
guidebook. I was just about to
we get
say.
no instructions. But uh that one seems like a pretty easy one. Like, don't get me wrong, like we all go through our phases where like, oh, I want to be a bad guy, like, whatever. Like, I get that.
That's not a lifestyle. Like that shouldn't be like your goal. It's
Yeah, no,
like,
no, no, it should.
yeah.
It should. Like, that should be one of those passing phases. Everyone goes through phases.
Mm,
Then there's like the undercurrent of steadiness, right? Like that's something that you always were. The trick is to not letting that shitty part come into that part
mm.
and change what you were to now you're just a bad human being, which I feel like does happen to people. I know for a fact it does happen to people, but it's definitely not something to strive for.
Not something to strive for. And again, like, it's like exercising every day, right? If you just once a day, like go out of your way to be kind to someone.
Sure,
Like we in a discussion we were having earlier, like how you feel inside dictates how you look out, how you present to other
sure,
people,
yeah,
right? If you can foster that kindness in yourself internally, it will translate externally, not just in how you look, but in how people perceive you.
yeah. I mean, like if you have the right vibe,
Mm.
like let's just say, like if you carry yourself off correctly, you could look like Harry and still pick up, Beyonce.
What do you mean Beyonce? I saw Beyonce last week.
Yeah, right. I mean, like, I'm just saying, like, just be better. Just try to be better. I guess that parting words, try to be better.
I mean, and yeah, try to be better, try to be kind, try to remember that, we're,
Just be better. Don't try it. Like, just
yeah,
don't get like, I dabbled in that. A
you
couple
don't
of
like
weeks.
don't try to be kind, like be kind
Just be kind. Yeah.
and be genuine about it. Don't be kind for the sake of like
Well, what are you gonna get
somebody
in
like it's like
return?
I have to be kind once a day.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like
See, I was kind of that guy. This is okay. You know what I mean? Yeah.
right, like I was
Fuck
kind
all
of
that.
that dude. It's cool for me to step on this guy's shoe. Like that's not
Or
how it
like
works.
expecting something in return for doing it. Like, just do nice things to do nice things.
Like
It'll all
hold the door open for someone. Like would it really like
say bless you.
yes.
Notice I mentioned no God. Don't say God bless
Oh,
you.
bless you.
Just bless you. Like
Yeah.
you're just being kind.
Like and it's such an understated, overly important thing. And just to wrap this up, I want to thank you for
Thanks
all
for
those
having me.
years ago being so kind to me. And can't wait to have you back on the show and tell more stories, buddy.
Thanks for having me,
This was John Armitrano with a special episode of Secondhand Talent. This is Steiner. We'll see y'all next Wednesday. It's a podcast.
man. Here we are, face to face.